Okay, I put LOL in the title of this because this argument is just a bad argument. This is not a good argument. If you're going to make an argument against Palantir, and there are some good arguments to make, you've got to make a better argument than this one. We're going to debunk the argument today. This is the last video you're ever going to have to watch around, is this company a consulting firm? Because to be honest, at this point, it's a little bit laughable. And I want to have some sympathy for the argument. I want to have some empathy for the people that kind of believe in this argument because they might have read some weird articles that are out there, or they might not really know what Palantir does. So they're a little bit skeptical around, is it a software company or is it a consulting company? But based upon the past month of videos that I put out, based on the past month of due diligence that I've personally done on the company, it is very, very laughable when someone says that this company is a consulting firm. And it shows they really don't understand what they're talking about. So a couple things we're going to do in this video. Number one, we're going to define what a consulting firm is. So, even if you already know this argument, hopefully you learn a little bit about what the nature of a consulting firm is. And I have a little bit of a unique relationship with consulting, so I'm going to talk about it in a second because I actually have my own consulting firm. And number two, we're going to talk about why Palantir is just not a consulting firm. So consulting firms. What are consulting firms? There's a couple of unique personal tidbits I have to add to this concept of consulting firm, because most of my friends in business school I graduated in May 2020 undergrad. They went on to become consultants. They went on to join Deloitte, Accenture, KPMG. These are sort of the big brand premier. They're called the big four consulting firms that exist, and their job is actually very boring, which is why I'm very happy I didn't become a consultant. Because like in freshman year of college, people were pitching this idea of becoming a consultant. They would have all these people come to business classes. They would be like, you should go become a consultant. And I'm like, what is a consultant though? Like, what is so unique about it? And they were saying like, you can make like, 85,000 starting salary, and like you get to travel and stuff. And I'm like, okay, this sounds pretty cool. Cause as an 18-year-old, I was like, I guess this could be a decent life. And then you go more deeper into understanding what a consultant actually does. And you're like, this is boring as hell. Like, why would I waste my life becoming a consultant? And no shade to anyone who's a consultant. If you love what you do, then that's awesome. If you love your job, you love your job. I am a consultant in my own way because I have my own business that I'm going to get to in a second. That's a consulting firm. But in general, most of my friends went on to become consultants. And what they do all day at these big four firms is they make presentations, and they present these presentations to their higher up directors, who present it to their managing directors. And if they're lucky, they get to talk to the actual people at the very top. They work with some of the clients that they work with. At the end of the day, the job of a consulting firm is to create solutions for their clients that are meaningful in some capacity. So if Pepsi wants to have some type of solution for their digital a youth initiative so that their brand is relevant over the next 20 years and people don't start drinking another soda brand, then they might hire a consulting firm like Accenture or Deloitte, and they might pay them a hefty sum of money because those consulting firms are going to pay their consultants a decent salary, in which these consultants are smart, critical thinkers. They're able to think about the world, dissect problems, understand unique nuances within solutions, and ultimately come up with presentations, usually through PowerPoint, in which they can present to the client a business opportunity that the client can then pursue. And when the client can then pursue that business opportunity, the client can get some type of ROI, some return on investment that they paid for that consulting fee, because the client believes that there is a meaningful solution that was presented to them that they can then execute. So the job of a consulting firm is to figure out what the problems are that their clients have and hire really smart people to come up with solutions to those problems. A lot of times because those clients don't want to deal with those problems, right? Like they have other things to worry about. So consulting is a multi-$100 billion industry. I think Accenture is at $100 billion of market cap, or even higher than that because it's publicly traded. Accenture is one of the biggest consulting firms in the world, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of clients that just don't want to solve stuff. So like Facebook is a great example. Facebook hires a lot of consulting firms, and they pay these consultants like thousands and thousands of dollars per hour, sometimes per minute. It's like, it gets to be that expensive because the ROI of Facebook not having to worry about something, but rather just letting the consulting firm handle it, is monumental. So for example, when this whole whistleblower scandal stuff came out, Facebook probably consulted with a PR communications firm, even though Facebook has PR communications people, right? Like even if you have people that do the job, you still outsource this stuff because that's just the nature of how corporate America works. And they probably paid them millions of dollars to figure out how to clean up the public persona of Facebook. And those consultants probably made a nice PowerPoint presentation, and then they presented it to the head of marketing or public relations at Facebook. And they said, you guys guys should run advertisements that have this message so that the public cares about you more nicely. You guys should have Mark Zuckerberg go do a podcast with a bunch of YouTubers because these YouTubers are more personal, which he ended up doing. He did a podcast with Gary Vaynerchuk. He did a podcast with Sarah Dietschy, who's a tech YouTuber, and it made him feel more human-like, even though the person that just left his company basically revealed that this guy only cares about profits and making sure algorithms are strong enough so that people can say mean things so that advertisers get more of an ROI on Facebook. I don't necessarily believe in the whistleblower stuff that came out in terms of like the incentives behind what Facebook's trying to do. I think people are people and algorithms just magnify what people do, but nonetheless, they had to humanize Zucks, and they probably paid a consulting firm to help figure out some solutions on how to humanize him. And they trusted that consulting firm that likely said you should go on some random YouTuber's podcast instead of CNN or Fox News or, Good Morning America, because these people are more relatable. And that's why they probably did that, because they trusted the advice. So whether that's true or not, I'm not necessarily sure in this example of Facebook, but that's the idea that I'm trying to get at. That's what a consulting firm ultimately does. Their job is to present solutions to clients, and those clients pay a lot of money for those solutions because they trust that the people coming up with those solutions are smart individuals. That's not what Palantir does. Palantir offers a software as a service, which is why it is a SaaS company. It's why its margins are absolutely ridiculous. The average revenue per contract that they get is about $8.1 million, in which they integrate a software. And there's three core offerings: Foundry, Gotham, and Apollo. Apollo's more enterprise, Gotham's more government, and Foundry's a bit more commercial. Into an organization, and they do some consulting in the beginning in terms of a couple of key initiatives. Number one, how is the software actually going to be implemented within the organization? Meaning, what will the software be able to do for the organization? So that's some consultation in the beginning when they're trying to sell them on the product, maybe giving them a free trial, maybe showing them a little bits of the ins and outs of the software. They would have Palantir consultants go to the client and say, hey, you have data from 40 years that's been siloed in a lot of different places. We can put it together in Foundry. And when we initiate this software within the platform, there will be a lot of cool things that you will be able to do as a result of it, which will ultimately make you more efficient, more effective, save you more money, time, etc. So there is a level of consultation that is involved when Palantir is selling the product, because they ultimately have to show them what the product will do for them, which is intrinsically consulting, because you're showing them solutions to their problems via this type of software. There is another element of consulting because you're answering a lot of questions, and you're probably making some presentations, and you're showing the answers to these questions. You're making these presentations. You're showing how the software works. So there probably is like a month or 2 months before they actually sign a hard deal where they are just talking back and forth. And that's kind of what consultants are doing with clients, right? They're talking back and forth. However, that's not what the clients are paying for. And this is why this argument is just ridiculous. Like, this argument is just bad. It's just a bad argument. It does not have a solid claim, warrant, or impact, which are the three fundamental structures to actually being able to come up with an argument in the first place. Because they can make a claim that Palantir is a consulting firm, but that's just an assertion. The logic, which is the warrant, which is the foundational element for why the claim would even make any sense or have any validity to it, is bankrupt. Because if someone is paying you money as a consultant, they're giving you money for the service of consulting. That's not what's going on with Palantir. The money they're getting, whether it's from the government or commercial clients or whatever, is for providing a software that ultimately creates a service. So they are not getting paid to come into an organization and show them how they can have better solutions for their data, how they can better optimize their data, how they can make their business more effective and efficient. They're doing all that stuff for free, because at the end of the day, if they sell you on the software, they make all of that back times 10. The other part to why I know what a consultant does is because I am a consultant. I have my own consulting firm. I did a video about how much income I made in 2021 for anyone who's nosy and interested. And I get if you're nosy and interested, because like we're all nosy and interested. Like I click on those videos for everybody because it's just interesting to see how much money people make. And I am my own consulting firm. And believe it or not, I did debate in high school, and I got really good at debate, developed a reputation. And by the time I got to college, people started paying me to help to consult them on their public speaking and communication skills. Before I knew it, I was consulting with entire organizations on creating curriculum that they could integrate within their clients' workflows for how they could become better public speakers and communicators and debaters. So I've been around the public speaking, communication, debate niche for the better part of 10 years. And over the better part of 6 years, I've turned that into a consulting business where I go to clients and they pay me a fee for going to them and helping them. I work with clients virtually. I get on a Zoom call. They pay me a fee for working with them virtually. Like, I don't get a payment that's automated. I get a payment for my time. That's the hard part about being a consultant. Sometimes the prices per hour can be really good and really awesome, but also it is a price per hour. So at the end of the day, you are still working. The beautiful thing about software is that it's automated. You make it once, then you just sell it and you get money on autopilot. As a consultant, which I know because I have a consulting firm, you've got to actually do the consulting work to get paid. You're getting paid for the service that you're providing via the consulting, not the software you're creating, which is what Palantir is doing. So that's why this argument just doesn't make any sense, because if Palantir is providing them a software that is a very expensive, unique, nuanced software that is integrated within their organization, and they're getting paid a fee, to a subscription fee, essentially. It's just a very high subscription fee because they're not selling you, like some $10 per month email scheduler. They're selling you a multi-million-dollar piece of software that can completely transform and optimize your business via big data. Then they're going to get a payment for that software. They're not getting a payment for the consulting of how to use that software. That's why this argument doesn't make any sense. The sort of logic behind a lot of people with this argument is that they are like helping your IT department get smarter. So they're like helping your IT department understand more about the way to optimize data and stuff like that. So they're like a glorified consulting firm because they have this software, but they ultimately go into companies and tell them what to do with their data. That's just not the case. They have recommendations for your data. They have analysis for your data. They have suggestions for how your data could be optimized. They have recommendations for how construction companies could better optimize their supply chain data, how energy companies could better understand how to store energy and get energy out of the ground a lot better using years and years of data that has been siloed and that has never been centralized in one hub. But they're not being paid to consult you to tell you how to use your data. They're being paid because they're offering a very unique piece of software that does the quote unquote consulting for you. And that's it. That's the end to this argument. Like it's just not a strong argument. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You don't have a company pulling $392 million of revenue in one quarter because they gave PowerPoint presentations. And that's it. I'm not even going to say anything else. There's no end to the video. That's it. They are not making that much money because they're giving PowerPoint presentations. They're making that much money because they're changing the world with their software. And if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. But if you want to believe they are a consulting firm, then please go talk to some consultants at Big Four companies, KPMG, Deloitte, et cetera, and then talk to people who work at Palantir. And I think you'll get a different perspective on what is a consultant and what is someone who is actually creating software for a company that might just end up changing the world.